Now, as a defense lawyer, you can argue various things. You could argue that they did not prove it, that the evidence didn't rise that level, that it was insufficient, that there are credibility issues or chain of custody issues or evidentiary issues or all types of things. But you can't outright say, even if this did happen as the prosecution said it did, you should not convict him because this should not be illegal. And that's essentially what jury nullification is.
Fine. When Luigi Manjourney was arrested on suspicion of murdering the chief executive of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, in a shooting in New York, it led to a strange response, didn't it, to say the very least? He began to get support. People began making merchandise and printing supportive graffiti or art. They argued that it was a legitimate response to a punishing health insurance industry. And it turned Luigi into a cult hero, didn't it, in recent years? Critics have condemned that movement as a glorification of corporate violence and dismissing a tragic loss of human life, understandably, to say the very least. Well, the case has finally come to trial in the United States, and earlier this week, The Times revealed that activists are promoting a rarely used quirk in America's legal system that could allow jurors to acquit Luigi Manjourney, even if they believe he is guilty. To help us understand how that would work, let's speak to Todd A. Spodek, who is the managing director of the criminal defence firm Spodek Law Group, who has also famously represented the fake heiress Anna Sorokin. You might remember this story, an extraordinary story, during her high-profile 2019 trial. Todd, thank you. What a pleasure to have your company tonight. Thank you for being with us. Can we just start with this case in the round? You know, from your perspective as a legal professional, you've been in amongst some, extraordinary legal stories. This one, the support that Luigi Manjourney received, how this story has twisted and turned in recent years is incredible, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, someone to do a point blank gun shooting in New York City on a public street to a father, to a husband, to a human being, and to get this sort of public support that it was justified is a little astonishing for a layperson, for a criminal defense lawyer, for anyone. But there is a movement of people out there who support his actions, obviously are helping fund his legal fees, and are trying to get this jury nullification idea out there into, mainstream media.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that then. So the campaign group that has been set up around him to try to promote this idea of jury nullification. Can you, in layman's terms, for those of us who aren't legal professionals, explain that? What does that mean? What is jury nullification?
So at the end of the day, the jury has the responsibility of determining whether the prosecution has proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's the legal standard. So during the trial, the different sides present evidence, they have objections, they make arguments. But at the end of the day, in the U.S. system, the jury has the responsibility to determining whether the prosecution has met their burden, has proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, as a defense lawyer, you can argue various things. You could argue that they did not prove it, that the evidence didn't rise that level, that it was insufficient, that there are credibility issues or chain of custody issues or evidentiary issues or all types of things. But you can't outright say, even if this did happen as the prosecution said it did, you should not convict him because this should not be illegal. And that's essentially what jury nullification is. So defense lawyers are unable to present an argument for jury nullification. But what can happen is a jury can take that idea and run with it on their own, irrespective of what the lawyer does. An easy way to understand it may be in the horrible case where, say, a young daughter is raped and the father is now on trial for murdering the rapist. And even though the prosecution can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the father did kill the rapist, they may find that that was justified for the rapist's actions. So that's what this theory is. The theory here is there's no question as to the legality of his actions, but he is justified because of the public outcry about the U.S. healthcare system. That's the jury nullification argument in a nutshell.
Right. That's Absolutely fascinating, isn't it? And so that's what this campaign group are attempting to do. The legal team cannot make that case to the jury, can they? They cannot say to them, "Look, we don't think that this should be a prosecution." So it has to happen. The jury have to somehow find out that that's a possibility, that they can acquit somebody on the basis that they don't think it is, but that cannot be presented to them in court. And I guess that's what this campaign is about, is it? It's about trying to raise enough awareness of this idea so that a jury hear it and may reach that conclusion. Is that what this campaign group are attempting to do?
Exactly right. So one way is to raise awareness that the jury has the power to do this, right? At the end of the day, at the end of a trial, the jury comes back into the courtroom and the foreperson of the jury tells the judge whether an individual is guilty on each count of an indictment. And they don't have to provide their reasoning. They just say whether they're guilty or not. So in the back room, when the 12 jurors are convening and talking and discussing the case, they can, in theory, all agree, look, we believe the prosecution proved the case, but based on the circumstances, we're going to acquit him no matter what.
Okay. And is this campaign group, are they doing this? Are they promoting this idea on the basis that what do they want the jury to conclude? Do they want the jury to conclude that he was right to have carried out this killing if he did?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think one, they want them, the jury, to conclude that they have the power to acquit him, even if he is guilty, based on his underlying motivation. And I think if enough people feel like the healthcare industry is the devil, and this is the personification of the devil, and they have to acquit him because it's just so justified in his actions, then they could do that and no one's there to question them. And so I think one part is educating them on Luigi's motivation, and the second part is educating them on their ability to do jury nullification.
Right. Is this not just absolutely terrible? I mean, if this person, if the prosecution are able to prove this person did this crime, someone was shot, somebody died, is this not a grotesque manipulation of the legal system?
So, one, you have to realize this is not an easy thing to accomplish, right? So the defense cannot raise this as a defense, and they can't even make inferences really to it during the trial. So it's really only if the jury does this on their own volition. But yes, I look, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. This is what I do. I love my job and I love the people I represent at the end of the day. But I think the facts here are abhorrent one way or the other. And I think that certainly if the prosecution can prove the case, then the appropriate verdict is guilty. And if they can't prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, then the verdict should be not guilty. But it is against the belief of the jury system and the Constitution and the U.S. criminal justice system for a jury just to go out on their own, go rogue, and decide that they're going to acquit someone purely because they agree with their motivations. You can see what a horrible sequence of events that could be if that's applied in other cases. You start losing the power of the jury to do their job.
Yeah. Goodness. Can I just briefly ask you about this? We're a bit tight on time here, but I wanted to get to it. I wanted to get to it because number one, I'm fascinated by it, but number two, I think it's relevant, which is that you famously represented Anna Delvey, who was a high-profile case in 2019. She was known as the fake heiress, wasn't she?
Yes.
And you argued, you kind of made this argument that her actions reflected New York sort of elite culture rather than criminal intent. So that again is a sort of interesting technicality, isn't it? Where it could be argued, and I put it to you, and obviously you were her lawyer, so you had a job to do. But there's an argument that says that there are some technicalities, a sort of playing of the legal system here on technicality rather than on what is just.
100%. Savvy defense lawyers are going to find a way to fight the case, and they're going to fight it in whatever method they can to hopefully do the best job for their client. In Anna's case, her actions were clear cut. There were documentary evidence, there were bank statements, there were lack of bank statements. There are things that we could not contest with a jury because once you lose credibility with a jury, you can't gain it back. But the one thing that a jury doesn't know is what's going on inside a defendant's mind, whether it be Anna, whether it be a different case. And so for Anna's case, I was able to attack her underlying motivation. Did she have the intent? What was her desire? And I think the defense here is similarly going to argue something along those lines. The evidence is quite strong that this was the individual based on the backpack and the materials they recovered and different police investigative techniques. But I think that they can argue what was going on in his mind at the time. What was his motivation? Did he intend to kill him? What was happening? And that may be all that they have. That may be the only option, which is common in some cases, that you have to focus on the parts of the law that you can contest rather than ones that you can't.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little bit rude to you, Todd, and I don't mean it to be.
It's okay. No worries.
I don't want to be antagonistic. I'm not trying to be antagonistic, but I do wonder if do you ever think you're doing the wrong thing?
No, first of all, there's no bad questions here. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I have thick skin. So please ask me anything. No, absolutely not. I think it's actually really important that the bar is set high, right? The prosecution has to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and defendants get the benefit of sophisticated lawyers who are going to fight back in whatever way they can. And if you think about it in the most purest form, if the prosecution's case is strong enough, it shouldn't be an issue. And if it's not strong enough, then justice is doing its job. So no, I don't think there is a perfect system out there, but I certainly believe that the U.S. system is the top tier system, and certainly the one that's the fairest to all parties involved.
How interesting. Thank you for taking that question, Todd. Good to talk to you tonight. Really appreciate it. Todd Spodek, thank you.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
You too.